What's up, everyone? This is James Ellars. My last video, we were talking about the Iowa caucus, and it was actually on the day of the Iowa caucus. And I said my next video would be done after we receive the results of the Iowa caucus. It is 3 days later, and we still don't have results. They got up to 97% of results counted. And then we have these headlines pop up. DNC chairs call for Iowa to recanvass caucus vote. Says enough is enough. So we're just going to take a kind of a slower dive into a lot of what's going on. It's a slow process. I'm not really sure what they're doing. So if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe on YouTube at James Ellars. It's a newer channel, so I need all the help I can get. If you're on Twitter, follow me on Twitter at Ellars. And at the bottom, you can see scrolling is a link to donate to my campaign for Congress. I am also running for Congress in California's 8th district on most of Andrew Yang's policies. So please, if you can help me there, please help me. I am completely grassroots, no corporations, no corporate PACs, anything like that. So I'm on the ballot, which is pretty crazy. I actually got one of the ballots, mail-in ballots. I've seen it, and my name's on there. It's pretty crazy. So yes, what we are going to be doing is taking a deep dive into what's going on in Iowa and New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, because all the dates are really close together. Like, I was surprised how close together the actual upcoming elections are, but they're really close. Like, New Hampshire's the 11th and it's the 6th today, so it's in 5 days, which is crazy. The New Hampshire debate is tomorrow, which is awesome. We have the Nevada debate on February 19th, my birthday. So I'm currently going to get the link to this live stream and post it on Twitter, because otherwise nobody's going to know that I'm here. Hey, someone's here. What's up? So I'm going to do that. Again, we're going to look into kind of what's going on in Iowa. They just called for a recanvass. We'll figure out exactly what that means. So just so you know, it doesn't mean that they're going to completely redo all of the Iowa, like the whole caucus thing. That's not what it means. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to go back through all the results and give me a second. What they're going to do. Sorry, echo. Basically what they're going to do, they're going to get all the results and recount them. So like, they must have enough for them to admit that they need to do that. It takes a lot, right? For them to admit and be like, hey, we need to recount what's going on in Iowa. That's pretty big for the DNC to admit that. So all right, I'm posting this on Twitter. So again, I'm going to do a live stream, just not as I usually do my videos, pretty fast paced. So this is going to be more slow paced. See what's going on in Iowa. See how New Hampshire's doing. They were CNN town halls last night, and from everything I've seen, everybody's saying Andrew Yang was the clear top person in that, which is awesome. I watched most of Andrew Yang's. I didn't watch anyone else's because I have no interest. Because we all pretty much know they're going to waste an hour talking about nothing. And Andrew Yang will talk about tons of stuff in less than an hour. So I was able to tune in him, which is awesome. The thumbnail for this live stream does not look good. It's just me basically going, all right, I'm posting this around. How's everybody doing? Oh, they got a person. What's up? So again, we're going into it. We're basically going to see what's going on in Iowa. They're calling to recanvass the votes. So basically, they're going to completely redo all the results, see what's going on. So we'll see what goes from there. I don't know if you guys were watching the night of the election, but I mean, the results were completely different when they first started announcing the results versus what actually came out. And I'll try to show you, I'll show you where and what I had. I think I posted on my Twitter. So let me pull that up for y'all. I lived in Texas for a year. Born and raised in California, lived in Texas for a year, lived in Florida for a year. But y'all, the word y'all stuck. Is completely versatile. So I'm pulling up my Twitter right now. So let's see. Mayor Pete. Ooh. Sorry. I'm not fond of the guy. Just because I know he can be bought. And I've seen videos of him hanging out with Zuckerberg in a car, and then the whole wine cave thing is just, I don't like him. So let me zoom in on this. So AP, the Associated Press, is unable to declare a winner in Iowa's 2020 Democratic caucuses 3 days later, which is pretty crazy because I've never seen something take that long. It's crazy. So let's see. I try to retweet everything to my Twitter just so I have it. Bay Area Tribune saying Yang did pretty well last night at the CNN presidential town hall. The Zach and Matt show has a link to the full town hall, so if you weren't able to see it, you can check it out. They have it on their page. And everybody that asked a question, none of them were declared Andrew Yang supporters, but they all had questions that seemed like they were trying to give him a softball question. Like they were all questions that were super related to him and his platform, and he was able to answer all of them really well. Like if you weren't able to watch the town hall, watch it because it's really good. He's really personable. And none of the people who asked questions were they were either undecided or for other people, but all their questions were super relevant to him, which is awesome. And that's tough, right? I mean, he's just standing there just taking questions out of the blue. That's crazy. Let me see. I'm trying to find. So there's this. If you haven't seen this yet, the kid literally. This is why I'm so frustrated with the caucuses. So in some of the places where the vote's so close, literally the rule is that you have to flip a coin to see who gets the delegate. That's nuts. We're in the 21st century. This isn't the 1800s. So this kid, it looks like a bad magic trick. Literally flips a coin, looks at it, puts the right side on his hands like, oh, Mayor Pete won. Like what? What? Sorry, I didn't do it. Let me do it. Let me do it again. I don't know why it's buffering. I have 100 megs here. It's doing it again. They're blocking me. But basically, it's on my Twitter. I don't know why it's not loading. But it's crazy. He literally flips a coin, looks at it, chooses the side that he wants it. Looks at it. Then puts it down. Oh, Mayor Pete won. Yeah. And there's multiple instances of things like that happening. And there's the reason, like, for them to recanvass results is they're literally just admitting, like, hey, the results are messed up and we have to go and redo all of them. So what I'm trying to find now is here. So this is what I saw the night of the Iowa caucus. So they started posting results before that so-called quality control pause, right? So they started posting results. So last election, Bernie Sanders got like 49% in Iowa. So for him to be getting, it was showing him at 60, which obviously it would even out a little bit. It would correct itself a little bit. So he'd probably back off that a little bit. But these are the results that were coming in. So Sanders 60%, Warren 21, Pete 11, Yang 4.2, Klob 1.4. So just here, it's saying Andrew Yang got 4.2%. After they did the whole, quality control thing, it had him at 1%. Like, how do you lose over 3% from when they first started counting the votes? It's complete BS. So that's one of the big graphics I was basing a lot of the things I was talking about on, because I posted a tweet which got way too much attention. Like, excuse me, let me see. I posted a tweet that night that got way too much attention. I was literally up Iowa caucus night. I was literally up till 7 a.m. looking at this stuff, talking to people, like going back and forth. Like, it was crazy. But for that initial graphic to have Yang 3.2% at the very, very beginning and then him go to 1%, it's nuts. It's BS. And there's a lot of people that I've personally met that were precinct captains that say, like, hey, we got delegates, and they're not counting them. They're just not counting them. It's insane. So what I'm trying to find now, I'm trying to just kind of recap a lot of the stuff that went on that night, which it was a lot. So again, I was trying to wait to do another video until we got the legit results. Here's another coin flip. Like, literally, you're doing a coin flip. That one looked a little more legit than the other one, at least. But, So here's the one that had issues. Bernie won, Andrew Yang did well, and Mayor Cheat trying to steal the election. What will be done about this? So, again, the graphic that I was seeing that night obviously had Bernie winning. Andrew Yang had over 3.2% in the very beginning. And then the whole thing with Mayor Cheat. If you haven't seen, it's a whole thing with the app. So in the past, to report the caucus numbers, they would just call in. Pretty easy, right? This time they decided to develop an app so that they reported the caucus results through the app. A couple issues with that. The company Shadow that developed the app, the people running it first are former people from the Hillary Clinton campaign. Second, Mayor Pete's campaign funded most of it, donating like $40,000 to it. So just the fact that you have that, and then you also have the fact that he declared himself the winner before any of the results were announced, like, that's one of the big reasons why I said what I did. And again, didn't get that great of a reaction. So, well, I got a decent reaction from Yang Gang. Let me just say that. It was a lot of a lot of the rich people, a lot of the media, not the media, but there's a lot of people in the entertainment industry for some reason that were trying to defend Pete, which I don't really understand the connection. Like maybe just because he can be bought, you know what I mean? Like I have a lot of people defending him. So right now they're recanvassing Iowa. Like they just announced it, the DNC announced it. Tom Perez said, enough is enough. We have to recanvass Iowa. So they are going to go through all the results again and then just recount everything. I think it's just the equivalent of a recount for a caucus. But the big thing here is we need to take what happened in Iowa and learn from it, because Nevada is also a caucus state. So Nevada was actually going to use the same exact reporting app that they use in Iowa. And thankfully, they said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to use the old way, which is good. But yeah, so they're going to recanvass it. So who knows? Here's the thing. We don't know exactly how long that's going to take either. So they have the next debate tomorrow. And we don't even know who won Iowa or what the results were, right? So it's kind of where we are. So right now we have no idea what is really happening in the race. Like some of the Yang gang's frustrated, which I was also frustrated with the results and kind of what happened, but it's not anything like Iowa is a largely conservative Republican state. It's not exactly a place where we need to be gauging how Democrats are going to be doing in the country, because it's not a good first state, period. So New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada is going to be big. And then in under a month on March 3rd, Super Tuesday. So you have a ton of states then. So between now and Super Tuesday, I mean, the main thing right now needs to be New Hampshire. Like if you can call, if you can text in New Hampshire, if you're anywhere near New Hampshire and you can get there, because right now it's going to be more relevant than Iowa. Iowa, we don't even know what's going on. They're saying Bernie's probably won, but they're also saying Bernie might win with like 26%. And if that's any indicator of how Bernie's going to do this time versus how he did last time. Last time in Iowa, he got around 50% when Hillary was running, and this time if that's accurate at all, that's crazy. If he only got 26% versus 50% last time, that's huge. So we'll see. We don't really know what's going on with. I mean, there's no gauge of who the front runner is. Like. Again, if you have 4 front runners, you have no front runners. That's the thing. So that's where we need to go in New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada. I'm about 3 hours away from Vegas. So I'm going to spend a lot of time in Vegas doing things for the campaign. I'm going to try to be a precinct captain there and, get that going. So again, learning opportunity there. Just how caucuses run and bring a precinct captain there. So we'll see. Again, tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow. Let me double check. New Hampshire debate. Then you have the whole thing with the impeachment. It's just a cluster F right now. Like I did not know that before Mitt Romney voted to convict Donald Trump, that nobody in the history of the country, like no senator has ever voted against their own party in the impeachment process. Like it's a bit of a flawed system, if you ask me, because that's crazy. That's insane. Like we've had a decent amount of impeachment processes, and so for no one to vote against their own party is crazy. And also to have impeachment never successfully remove a president is crazy. Like Nixon left on his own. He wasn't removed. So for it to never successfully remove a president, it's kind of concerning. All right, New Hampshire debate. So right now we have Biden, Sanders, Warren, Buttigieg, Klobuchar, Yang, and Steyer. So it looks like pretty much everybody from the last debate, plus Andrew Yang. Again, Andrew Yang didn't make the last debate just because they didn't release like any polls from the December debate and the January debate. There was like nothing released, which is BS. Sorry, let me maximize that so you can see what I'm talking about. So again, we have these people made it. Tulsi's not doing well. I mean, again, Iowa's not a really good indicator, but it shows that she got 0%, which is interesting. The other interesting thing too, she's running ads. So I've seen the ads myself, and I've heard a few different places. I'm not really sure how I would even find her ad. But it basically says Tulsi supports Andrew Yang's plan for universal basic income, which is good for Andrew Yang. It's kind of an odd thing for to boost her campaign, because it seems like it's just pushing more people to Andrew Yang, which I'm not complaining at all, but it's kind of an odd thing for her campaign to be doing to try to gain some traction. So we'll see. I mean, I like Tulsi. Again, Biden, this is the biggest thing with Iowa. Like, we don't really know a lot of the results, but I think what we do know is that Biden did not do well. Like Biden, I really, really think that if he does not, if he doesn't do well in New Hampshire, like I think like New Hampshire, South Carolina, within the next 2 weeks, he might drop out. I think it's an ego thing. And a lot of people are saying that, hey, he won't drop out because he has such a big ego. But I think that he figured this was his time because he was vice president, and all the polls were saying that he was going to do really well. So I think it's an ego thing that if he doesn't do well in New Hampshire, I think he's just going to drop, hopefully. Because this is the thing. Out of everybody qualified for the New Hampshire debate, who actually has a chance, right? So let me pull back up everybody that's in the debate. And I'm talking who has a chance to win presidency. Like, who can go up against Donald Trump and beat him, right? Because this is the whole thing. You have to be able to beat Donald Trump. You have to have, enough going for you that you can beat him. Biden, no. Like he's, I don't know how many times he's actually run for president, but he just likes running for president. So he thought this was his chance to be president. It's not happening. Bernie probably, besides Yang, has, more possibility. Well, I kind of thought it depends. If the Iowa results are accurate at all, then Bernie in 2016 got almost 50% in Iowa. And then this year he got 26%. So if the results are accurate at all, that means Bernie Sanders' support in Iowa was cut in half, which is not looking good for him. Warren would not do well against Trump. Pete is going to get demolished when you get to South Carolina and any state with any kind of diversity. Klobuchar, no. Steyer, no. That's literally Yang. Like, Yang would do the best against Trump, and Trump wouldn't even know what to do against him, like honestly, because Yang won't play that game. He bases everything on statistics and numbers and facts, and Trump is the complete opposite. So if you look at this whole list, like who has a chance against Trump? Bloomberg, I'm sorry, like you're spending a fortune on just being the most annoying presidential candidate. Like you don't have a chance. You don't have a chance. So literally, like, I think people are finally waking up to Andrew Yang. He had an hour to himself last night on CNN. That's huge. Because a lot of the things that I read were very, very, very positive. Like everybody's just like, wow, I've never really listened to Andrew Yang this much in length, and he did really well. Let me see if I could see. I don't know why it goes to Mitt Romney. Doesn't really have it on there. I think I'll have to go to Twitter. Again, doing more of a long form, just kind of live stream, just going through everything. Because again, the whole goal was to make my next video about the results of Iowa. And we still don't have them 3 days later. The next debate is tomorrow. We're going into the New Hampshire debate, not knowing what happened in Iowa, which is crazy. Like, this is the 21st century. You guys can't get an app right? That's nuts. Like, this is one reason why we need blockchain voting, because you can't BS it. It's all verified in the blockchain. So that's one thing I've talked to a lot of people about, and especially in my run for Congress. Like, again, if you guys don't know, I'm actually a candidate for Congress in California, District 8. So a lot of the stuff we're talking about, I'm also dealing with in my own race. And I need to do a lot more. Like, after my race is done, so my primary is in March 3rd. If I make it through the primary to the general, then I'll go through till November. So whenever it's done, I'll go back through and kind of do an analysis of the whole getting on the ballot process, running process. It's a lot. It's pretty crazy. So let's see. Let me see if I could find this. What I'm trying to find right now, it might be too late to find the hashtag, but I'm trying to find the crowd reaction to Andrew Yang last night. Because the reactions were actually really good. CNN Town Hall. So I think if I search that and Andrew Yang, it's okay. So I'm not even narrowing it down. Let me show you. I'm not even narrowing it down by Andrew Yang. So, number of questions each candidate answered at last night's CNN Town Hall. Biden 18, Warren 16, Yang 29, Steyer 19. So Yang got at least 10 more questions, like 50% more, basically. He got 50% more questions answered during his time, which is crazy, if you think about it, because everybody else was just BSing. And that was the big reaction to some people. They said, hey, I could listen to all these other people and they can go an hour talking without saying anything. And I could listen to Andrew Yang and he talks about 10 or 15 different topics when in reality, almost 30 different topics in the same amount of time. It's crazy. I mean, it's really good crazy, right? Because he's focused on results and facts and data, whereas everybody else is just fluff, right? Some comments on Birdie. We got Eric on there. Vote for Andrew Yang. I think this is top ones. What happened? It's weird. I didn't refresh it. Twitter blows up, declares Andrew Yang the winner in CNN Town Hall. He references Padgett's video. Hi, Padgett. I did an interview with Padgett a couple weeks ago. Wanted to talk a little more about Andrew Yang. We talked mostly about my campaign, but I feel Andrew Yang's a little more interesting. Here's another one. I truly listened to Bernie Sanders. I love his intention, but Andrew Yang CNN Town Hall really set the bar high. I don't want to hear any more about Donald Trump and emotional speeches when answering the hard questions. I want statistics. I want proven data. I want real solutions. And that is like, that's a tweet that sums up. And again, I'm not even searching Andrew Yang CNN Town Hall. I'm literally searching CNN Town Hall and just looking at the first ones that come up. And a lot of them are about Andrew Yang, which is crazy. The next one, these are just the top, some of the top results. So this is a link to Andrew Yang CNN Town Hall. The most common sentiment regarding the CNN Town Hall paraphrased. I didn't really know much or anything about Andrew Yang before, but now I'm very intrigued and will likely vote for him. Make him mainstream and let the people decide for themselves. He's the only one who beats Trump. That's awesome. And again, these are by people that aren't former. They're not Yang Gang. They're not Yang Gang. These are people that are seeing Andrew Yang for the first time, and their reactions are really good. So let's see what else we got. Let me see. Anyone else feel Pete decided he wanted to be president as a kid and mapped his life out to achieve it? His empathy feels practiced and contrite, and the language around his policies is all borrowed from Yang and Warren. Yep. Why are there chairs if no one uses them? True. Are there more town halls tonight? Is that what happened? (62% time into the town hall. Pete claims he won the town hall. Didn't realize it was a joke till I was reading it. So again, if you haven't watched the town hall from last night, watch it. Definitely watch Andrew Yang's. Like, you don't have to watch. I didn't watch anybody else's just because I knew pretty much what they're going to be saying. Andrew Yang CNN Town Hall was like, question, meet data-driven and reasonable answer. Everyone else says just seemed like question, meet anecdote, emotional appeal, and vague platform statement. Hashtag Yang upgrades America. And here's the big appeal to Andrew Yang. Here's the thing. Like, obviously there's a lot of appeal, but right now with them not able to figure out just an app in Iowa, like the whole thing that derailed the Iowa caucuses was an app, technology. The whole time we've been talking about technology, how it can disrupt America, how it can disrupt our lives, and we need someone that can help us move past that. Literally, the first election of 2020, the whole election is derailed by a piece of technology that's not done well. And the DNC can't react well to it. They're not prepared for it. It's crazy, right? Everything Andrew Yang has been talking about happens the first night of the 2020 election. That paired with the CNN town hall, and then paired with, like, they're going to have the next debate tomorrow. Like all these things, he has I think he'll have a strong performance tomorrow, and I think it's just going to keep building and building, and he's going to do well. I really think so, and might be a little biased, but the fact that a piece of technology derails an entire caucus, like the whole state Democratic caucus, is crazy, especially when we have a candidate that's saying, hey, technology is going to disrupt our livelihood, and we need to figure ways out to make it work to our benefit, not be a bad thing. On the 3rd, it was definitely a bad thing. In Iowa, the app crashed. Technology that was supposed to help them ended up hurting them. So his appeal is huge. I mean, he's super relevant right now. I think he's the most relevant of any of the candidates. And it's going to keep moving that way. So New Hampshire should be super interesting because it's just it's a voting state. It's not a caucus. I don't know why caucuses are still a thing. Like, it sounds like something from the 1800s where they didn't really have the technology to give just individual votes. They're just like, all right, everybody stand in a corner. We'll see who gets votes based on that. Which, if there's a tie, we're just going to flip a coin. Like, what the hell? That's insane. Like, it can literally be all done through technology. Voter registration should be automatic. Automatic voter registration when you're 18. Election day should be a holiday, right? Give everyone a chance to vote. But again, a lot of these things are tactics, right? Iowa's the first state because it benefits whoever made it the first state. It benefits them somehow. It's a caucus because caucuses are easily manipulated. A lot of the people that were precinct captains said the leaders of the caucus at certain areas were definitely for or against certain candidates. They weren't unbiased. Obviously, with the coin flip, we saw that was manipulated. We saw that submitting the caucus results was being manipulated largely. So just the fact that caucuses can largely be manipulated, we need to get away with them. Like, do away with them. People are trying to get away with stuff. They're outdated. They take too long. Like, literally, people go and spend hours caucusing, like, because you have multiple rounds. And you can be there for hours, which is crazy when you can just literally vote on your lunch break in different states. It takes like a half an hour and you get it done, versus these states it takes hours. Like, it's obviously a process that benefits certain camps, like the establishment. It votes people, like it benefits people that have experience with it, and it needs to go away. So just the fact that they're still doing it in Nevada in a couple weeks, like, we need to get on the ball and figure that out, because we can't have the same thing happening again. Got a shout out from Rudy. He said he got surveyed for the California state primary election, and my name was on there. So thank you, Rudy, for that. So now trending is with 100%. Which, why would you even post? I don't understand these news organizations. I guess it's the DNC too, because I guess the DNC released the results, because they're saying with 100 of the precincts reporting Mayor Pete has a slight edge, but they just announced that they're going to recanvass. So why would you release full old results when you have to completely go through and redo new ones? Sorry, I'm trying not to get angry at it, but it's very frustrating when, like, it can easily be fixed, but they just refuse to do it. Like, why would you release results when they're not going to count for anything? These are literally the results they're saying are not good enough, so they have to recanvass everything, or they have to redo all the results. So they're sitting here like, oh, here are the full results, but they don't count. So what's the point? It's all just a game. So let's see. again, these are the results that don't count. So I showed you earlier the graphic where it actually showed like the results as they were coming in. Had Sanders at like 60%, had Pete at like 11%, had Biden at like 20% or something like that. So let me zoom in. It's frustrating. Doesn't want to load. There it goes. So let's do more candidates. And here's the other crazy thing. Computer's loading too many things at once. Here's the other thing about caucuses. If you don't get 15% or more, if a certain candidate doesn't get 15% or more in the first round, his people have to go to other candidates. So if you had like 12% in the whole state, you don't get any delegates because they have this rule that if you don't get 15%, your people have to go to other areas, which is crazy. And the other thing too is that the delegates don't really line up with they don't line up with the popular vote. So Sanders got the popular vote. Again, this is the round that has to be recounted, so it doesn't actually count. So it's like a practice round. He got the popular vote, but Pete got more delegates. And look at this. So here's the thing. Andrew Yang, these numbers aren't accurate because I know precinct captains that were there and said most of our delegates didn't get counted, so these aren't accurate. But hypothetically, he got 8,800 votes the first round. Now, again, if you don't get 15% or more, your people have to disperse and go to other camps. So, first round, he got 8,800. Final round, 1,780. So, he lost 7,000 votes because of that one little rule. So he should have had 7 or 8 times more than he has right here. So he got, even with the counts being off, he still got 7 or 8% in Iowa. Not being accurate. So if it was actually accurate, I think he did a lot better. The other thing too is, again, Sanders in 2016 got almost 50% in Iowa against Hillary. And this time he got 26.1. So is he really as electable as people are saying? Like this is my concern. Not only is it, he has a lot of good ideas, but it has real problems with getting those ideas completed, right? Like if you look up Bernie Sanders' record in the Senate, he doesn't have a good record of getting things done. And I like Bernie, but we really need to get things done right now. It's not like, hey, get into office. Oh, I can't get these things done because blame the other side. Like that time is done. We can't have that. We need things done. Like even a little progress is better than no progress. We can't have that. So the next month's going to be super interesting because let me see if I can find election dates. Because it's going to be happening very, very, very quickly, right? Let's see. Why? Okay. I was like, why isn't this giving me? I was looking at the wrong column. So we already had Iowa. It is February 6th. Iowa was February 3rd, and we don't have the results. New Hampshire, February 11th. Nevada, February 22nd. South Carolina, February 29th. And then we hit Super Tuesday on March 3rd. March 3rd, we have Alabama, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and Tennessee, and Texas, and Utah, Vermont, Virginia. Damn. So I think it's fair to say that after March 3rd, like we will know pretty much who's going to have the nomination on the Democratic side. The big thing, one of the biggest reasons, is California. So California historically had their primaries in June. California hasn't always been in March. But the thing is, we decided that, hey, we don't like for the elections to be decided by the time they get to us. So we're going to move them up. So that's what happened. They moved them up from March to June, or no, backwards, from June to March. So now Super Tuesday, not only does it have all these states, it also has California, which has a ton of delegates in there too. So within, I don't know, 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks, within a month, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 16. 16 more states in under a month, almost 3 weeks. 16. So there's a lot of time. There's a lot to do in a little time. Did it backwards. New Hampshire is the focus right now, then Nevada, then South Carolina. I thought Nevada was after South Carolina. See? It's crazy. So if you're on the East Coast, New Hampshire, South Carolina are the priority. If you're on the West Coast, Nevada. Get to Nevada. Nevada and California. There's a little time between Nevada and California, but the main thing is momentum right now. So a lot of the candidates, including Andrea, I think were hey, thanks for the shout out. Child party. A lot of the candidates were banking on the results to come out for Iowa to fund the next upcoming races. This is the thing. This is why the whole issue is so frustrating, because grassroots candidates like Andrew Yang, need their results to be posted so that we can get the fundraising for the next states. So this is where Yang comes in. Like, anything you could do to help, like, we need everybody on board, because we need to do what we need in New Hampshire. Nevada, we should have, like, I was at the Bet on Yang rally. Like, you could see the sign behind me. We were in a pretty big ballroom at the Rio casino, and it was packed. And that was, I don't know, what was the date of that? That was a couple months ago. So between then and now, I mean, Andrew Yang's going to do, I think he'll do really well. And then we also have a lot of the Yang Gang in California that are going to go help in Nevada. So I think we'll do pretty well there. So it's all going to happen very quickly. It's exciting. It's super exciting. The main thing is that we have to keep moving forward. Like, what happened in Iowa was frustrating. It's still frustrating because it's 3 days later and we don't have the results. But at this point, we kind of have to expect things like that to happen, just because we're trying to disrupt politics. Like, literally, we're not just trying to get, a Democratic candidate in there. We're trying to literally disrupt politics with Andrew Yang. If Andrew Yang can get in there and he can implement not only UBI, but democracy dollars and ranked choice voting, that's going to flip politics on its head. Literally. Like, I'm running for Congress, and if democracy dollars was a thing, I would have it wrapped up. Literally. Because right now, for whatever reason in politics, money's king. So people aren't looking at policies. They're basically saying, hey, which candidate has the most money because I want them to win versus the other team. They're looking at it as like a NBA or NFL game. Like, they're looking at it like a sport, like, hey, who can win? You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about their policies. I just want them to win. So what happens with that is you end up with people that aren't going to do anything positive. They literally will just get in there and maintain the status quo, but they raised a lot of money, so people will vote for that. That's basically what's happening with like Mayor Pete. That's what's happening in my local election. People aren't digging into policies because everybody else that's running, they don't have any concrete policies, like none. They're not even from the area, and people are acting like they have more support just because they raise more money. So we need to get Andrew Yang in there, and then we could get more Yang Gang in office. Like, this is what I'm telling a lot of people. Like, hey, if you have any passion for what we're doing with Yang Gang, even if you don't have any interest to be in office, like, we need you to run for office, because right now we just have like narcissistic people that want to run for office for it to be on their resume. They're not really getting in there to make anything positive. So we need more people willing to get into office that will actually make positive change. Because right now, like, my current congressman, he hasn't done anything. He's been there like 12 years, and the area is suffering. Like, our murder rate is as high as Chicago in this area. No jobs, everybody commutes. Like, it's horrible, and nothing's being done. So if you're passionate about Yang Gang, if you're passionate about the policies, if you have like his passion, like, please, in the future, like, look into running for office. And it is something that can be done. Like, I know it seems like a daunting thing. I know it seems like you have to be nominated to do it, but literally, like, to run for Congress, you just have to be a resident, and you have to be obviously a citizen, and you have to be 25. That's it. There are other hurdles and hoops you have to jump through, but it's completely doable. And I'm going to put more things together to kind of help people out with that. But we need more people in office. And when we get Andrew Yang in there and he puts in democracy dollars, the opportunity is huge. Because imagine if everyone had $100 to donate every year. Like, how much money you can get from your family and friends and community that's just not there right now. Because right now, the only candidates getting money are former candidates like that were in lower levels of government that just transfer money from previous elections, or, they're rich. They have connections, and it's really just built for rich people right now. So I would argue that democracy dollars is almost just as important, if not more important, than UBI. Just because it will get the money out of politics, and right now that's the biggest issue right now. Like, imagine Andrew Yang. Imagine how well he would be doing if all of us had an extra $100 a year to give to him. It'd be night and day. But he's running against these people like Mayor Pete. Again, I keep going back to it just because people keep defending him. He has donations from 40 different billionaires. 40 different billionaires donated to him. Now, the only reason they'd be donating to him like that is that if it's in their best interest, right? So we need democracy dollars. We need Andrew Yang in office to implement that, to get that money out of politics, because right now it's just running rapid. So it's going to be huge. It's going to be a huge month, like absolutely a huge month. We have New Hampshire, February 11th, Nevada, February 22nd, South Carolina, February 29th, and then March 3rd, Super Tuesday, which is huge. So if you're not, please You can make calls. I'll be making more calls. I think it is. Let me just verify before I. Not Andrew Yang. I always try to go to andrewyang.com, but it's not a thing. So let me see. Call for Yang. So if you go to yang2020.com/call, it has everything you need to call, right? Phone bank. There's even a video to phone bank. So there's no excuse. So it has the training, it has a handbook, everything's here, which is awesome. If you haven't registered for the email, do that. But it's yang2020/call. So CALL, yang/call. That's how you get set up with phone banking. And again, right now it's just all hands on deck because we have New Hampshire coming up, we have Nevada, we have South Carolina, that's Super Tuesday. All within a month, all within almost 3 weeks, a little over 3 weeks. So it's huge. It's awesome. It's going really well. Like, I'm excited. I'm just going to Google Andrew Yang and see what comes up. And again, it's the media trying to go after him. He fires dozens of staffers after Iowa. They're trying to spin it as a negative thing. And again, Bloomberg, Bloomberg has his own news site. Like, Bloomberg's just spending millions of dollars just to fail. So here we are. They are recanvassing the results in Iowa. Probably be another 3 days till we get that. New Hampshire's coming up. The debate's tomorrow. New Hampshire Debate. Andrew Yang's back on the stage. So we missed the stage in January because they didn't release any polls, which is BS. But he's back on there easily. Like, he's easily back on the stage. So he needs to, I think he needs to take the gloves off a little bit. He needs to differentiate him from the rest of the crowd. And the easiest way, I think, for him to do it is just to be like, look, the Iowa caucus was a disaster because of technology. We didn't have the right technology, and we didn't have the technology to fix it. And we need leadership that is good with technology. I'm the only person on the stage that can do that. And in the coming years, it's going to be more and more critical that we have leadership like that, because automation, like, the next 20 years in terms of technology is supposed to make the last 100 years look like nothing, literally. And if we don't have people in there that will actually help with that, like, we're screwed. But like, on top of the whole automation taking away jobs and people not being able to make as much money as we need to, that's why we need UBI. But just the automation race with other countries, putting global, technology agreements in place so that people aren't just trying to steal each other's technology. There's so many things technology-wise. That technology is the focus, which it is right now, because that app, the shadow app in the Iowa caucus, technology is the focus right now. So Andrew Yang should get the attention because he's a technology candidate. There's no other candidate on stage that comes even close. Like, literally, Bernie's supposed to be the front runner from what it looks like. And we can't have a 78-year-old in the White House when technology is one of the biggest issues that we're dealing with. Like, it just can't. I like Bernie. I like him as a person. I think he's a good guy. Technology, though, like, it would be a disaster, period. Same thing with, Biden, same thing. Warren, same thing. Klobuchar, same thing. Pete, same thing. Like, he has no specialty in technology at all. So the issues we're facing right now, the thing that took down Iowa is technology, and we need people that, can take that on. That's another reason why I'm running for Congress, to be able to support Andrew Yang in that from the House, because we need more people that will support him. We have a UBI caucus on Twitter. So we actually have I think it's about 30 candidates right now that are running for office that are in the UBI caucus. So all of us support universal basic income. 99% of us support Andrew Yang. The only one I think that doesn't support Andrew Yang is Zoltan, because he's also running for president. So it's at UBI Caucus on Twitter. Just a bill on Capitol Hill as the profile picture. So this is also a brand new thing we have on Twitter. So follow us, please. UBI Caucus, at UBI Caucus. Good content on there. There's really good content on there. If you're part of Yang Gang, please support those who are making content for Yang Gang. We need as much as possible. If you have any interest in making content, please do it. Please create content. I made this YouTube channel so I could support Andrew Yang and support UBI and support the movement in multiple ways, because there's just so much content out there that we need more people doing it. We need more people out there pushing this movement in the right direction, and we need more people doing it. I'm new to it. I'm new to things. I'm learning, but I think I'm getting better over time, and that's the best way to learn, is just to do it, right? If you want to write articles, if you want to make videos, if you want to do a podcast, this is the Moving Forward podcast. I'm going to be on the podcast. I think my episode will come out tomorrow. I think they said before the next debate, so we'll see. Yeah, so it's exciting. But UBI Caucus on Twitter is, the candidates running that are supporting UBI. Another really interesting thing, if you're newer to UBI, just the whole concept, there's actually a lot of resources for basic income. So it is loading. Give it a second. So Stanford actually has a basic income lab. Not many people know about it. So if you just Google Stanford Basic Income Lab, it'll come up. So this has been around before Andrew Yang. I mean, it's been around. It looks like it's been around a while. So it outlines everything for UBI. Again, Stanford Basic Income Lab. It has studies. It has places where they tested UBI. So what is basic income? It is periodic. So in Andrew Yang's case, it'll be once a month. It's a cash payment. So there's different forms of UBI. Another one is like a tax refund. But in this case, it's a cash payment. Universal. So it's paid to all. It's not targeted to a specific population. It's paid to all. It's individual. It's paid on an individual basis versus a household basis. And it is unconditional. So it involves no work requirement or sanctions. And it is accessible to those in and out of work, voluntarily or not. So the big thing with this is that we're not having people jump through a lot of hoops to be able to get basic income. And this is the main thing, that everybody, you're a citizen of the richest country in the world. You deserve to share in the wealth. You especially in a time where technology is making more money than ever, we need something that will be able to give everybody a ground floor, right? In a modern society, we need, if the rich, like if Jeff Bezos wanted to go buy 100,000 houses right now, he'd be allowed to, and he'd be allowed to let them sit empty. So if people are allowed to make as much money as possible, we need to the priority needs to be first take care of the people that are less fortunate versus the fortunate. So what that means is if the decisions between taking away food stamps for the poor or giving the rich a tax break, if those are the choices, the advantage needs to go to the less fortunate. It needs to go to keeping people's food stamps in place versus giving the rich a tax break, which unfortunately for some reason in the last few years, it's flipped, right? The rich were given a huge tax break, so the government has less money coming in, and because of that, they cut food stamps, and they're looking at cutting other things. So the idea with universal basic income is the opposite, right? So it is the advantages of a modern society. Like if there's any advantages to be given out that the government can do, it needs to be given to the less fortunate and the masses. The top, I think it's the top 5 richest people in America. It's 5 or 6. Top 5 richest people in America have more wealth than the bottom 50%, which is crazy. Inequality is at its highest amount that it's been in 50 years, and we need to do something about it. And basic income is the best way to do it. Again, it's not just something Andrew Yang made up. Thomas Paine, at the creation of the country, was for it. Martin Luther King was for it. They actually passed UBI in the 70s under Nixon, but it didn't make it through because the opposition that didn't vote for it, they wanted it to be at a higher payment than it actually was, which is crazy. So basic income's not a new idea. Stanford, again, has a basic income lab. Again, you could search basic income lab Stanford on Google, and this will all come up. So the Basic Income Lab reviews the vast interdisciplinary research produced on UBI, identify underexplored research questions, and help shape future directions in basic income research. So I guess it is a little newer. It was founded in February 2017. Goes into basic income, right? Universal basic income takes on distinct forms in different historical and geographic contexts. It varies based on the funding proposal, the level of payment, the frequency of payment, and the particular policies proposed around it. Each of these parameters are fundamental, even if a range of versions still technically count as UBI. So you have a universal, conditional, individual, regular, and cash payment are the basic features of it. So again, Andrew Yang's UBI, the reason it works is because it's paired with a VAT, a value added tax. So it has the solution, which is UBI, as well as a way to fund the UBI, the universal basic income, through a VAT, a value added tax. A value added tax is a consumption tax. So it's a tax on only, not necessary, not basic goods. So you can control it. So for example, if you wanted the VAT to be little to nothing on diapers, because people need diapers more, versus a Mercedes, you could do that. It's based on consumption. So the more a person or a company consumes, the more VAT that will generate. So it's based on consumption. Now again, this is the Stanford Basic Income Lab, and it has a lot of info. It has more info. If I sat here for hours and tried to go through all the info, I would not get through it. When you have time, go Google Stanford Basic Income Lab, see what's in it, and go through it. It's a lot. So in recent years, UBI went from a utopian proposal to a policy with growing currency. UBI experiments have been conducted in countries as different as Kenya, Finland, Namibia. I haven't heard of that country. How is that possible? India and Canada. In the United States, variants of UBI proposal were much alive in the early second half of the 20th century, including through figures like Martin Luther King Jr., Milton Friedman, but the conversation did not pick up much in subsequent decades. This changed around 2016, when several American personalities wrote on the policy, including former Service Employees International Union President Andrew Stern, former Secretary of Labor Robert B. Reich, and futurist Martin Ford. Notably, the technology incubator Y Combinator started testing UBI in Oakland, California in 2016. The Economic Security Project was launched in 2016, devoting millions of dollars of research and advocacy in UBI. And the mayor of Stockton, California, announced the launch of a pilot program, subsequently launched in March 2019. So this is something they're actually testing in different places, and they test multiple times. UBI is not a new concept. It's just something that with the rise of technology, it's a lot more necessary. As more machines, automation take jobs, the more we're going to need UBI to offset it. There's a lot of people that just can't find jobs right now. We're like, for example, my background's in sales. My background's in sales, and sales is one of the jobs that are just not needed anymore. In the past, you needed physical salesmen to show people the products, explain it to them, educate them, and help them decide which product's best for them. Now technology does it better, period. One of the big reasons that I am super supportive of Andrew Yang and that I am running for Congress is that I feel the effects of this on my personal life already. There's just not many jobs for what my specialty is right now. And for me to either start my own business or pivot and retrain in something that's more relevant, a basic income would be huge, right? And this is what's true for millions of Americans. Now, what clicked with me with Andrew Yang is that I watched his Joe Rogan podcast, and he started shouting out statistics about this and how jobs are not easy to come by, and this is why. Like, the automation is why. And to go along with that, not only are these jobs are harder to come by, but people don't know why, so they're blaming themselves. Over the past 5 years, suicide rates have gone up every year over the past 5 years. Additionally, car crashes used to be the most common cause of an unnatural death. The cause of unnatural death, like versus being sick or heart attack or something, used to be car crashes. In recent years, the most common unnatural cause of death is suicide and overdoses. Now, these are tied together. The rate increase of suicide and overdoses and the increase of anxiety, depression, they're all tied to people's inability to provide for themselves and their families economically. And if you don't know that machines and automation are contributing to this loss of jobs, you blame yourself, right? That's what a lot of people do. That's what I was doing. And it's not until you hear people talking about these things we talk about automation and UBI that it clicks, right? That's why this is such an important message that we have to share with everyone, because it's super relevant right now. Not before the whole debacle with the app in Iowa, this was super relevant already, right? Because technology is advancing at such a fast rate and we're not able to adjust in time. We need something to offset that, right? So this keeps going on into it. I'm going to take another drink first. I'm getting out of a cold, so I'm trying to mute when I cough. So give me a second. I'm sorry. Let me zoom in a little more on what I'm actually reading. Oh, that's nice. So the growth of income and wealth inequalities and the precariousness of labor and the persistence of abject poverty have all been important drivers of renewed interest in UBI in the United States. But it is without a doubt the fear that automation may displace workers from the labor market at unprecedented rates that primarily explains the revival of the policy, including by many in or around Silicon Valley. So this is Stanford. This is text from Stanford. This isn't from Andrew Yang's campaign. This is from Stanford, the Stanford Basic Income Lab. UBI has a long history and has been defended from a variety of often overlapping but occasionally conflicting ideological perspectives. Like most proposals to expand the safety net, UBI has roots in social democratic, anarchist, and social thinking. So again, it's based in the trying to expand the social safety net, not reduce it. Straight from Stanford. Ancestors of UBI were discussed by the likes of Thomas Paine, in the form of a lump sum granted to all citizens at adulthood. The Belgian socialist Joseph Charlier, the form of a territorial dividend generating a regular income, and James Mead, in the form of a social dividend in the 1930s and later. Those proposals share with recent versions of UBI a commitment to the view that a share of wealth produced by all in common or by previous generations should be redistributed to all in the form of a direct payment to individuals. Again, this isn't new. Thomas Paine was from 1797. This isn't a new concept. But again, the rise of automation and displacement of jobs, we need it. Those proposals share with recent versions of UBI commitment to share the wealth produced by all in common. Okay, I read that part. In a context of systematic discrimination against African Americans and the resulted widespread of unemployment and poverty, Martin Luther King Jr., the Black Panther Party, and James Boggs also considered guaranteed income as a strategy. Meanwhile, feminists, including the wages for housework movement in the 1970s, also discussed an income separate from labor as a way to weaken the prominence of the male breadwinner model. Which again, modern times, like I don't think anyone has a problem with reinforcing like women, giving them as a basis for their lives. Like we need to empower them. Where was I? UBI also has a footing in neoliberal thinking. The economist Milton Friedman famously defended a cousin of UBI, the negative income tax. He held that the NIT would raise a floor without negatively affecting the price system and market mechanisms, and that it would reduce the paternalistic and intrusive state bureaucracy required to decide who among the poor merits assistance. And this is one of the big things, right? It's universal. So you don't have to go through the bureaucracy required to decide who among the poor merits assistance. You're a citizen of our country. You have value, and we're going to give you value because you're here. That's it. So again, these are all things we've gone through before. Characteristics of UBI: periodic, cash payment, universal, individual, and unconditional. Again, all from the Stanford Basic Income Lab. This isn't from Andrew Yang's website. This is from a neutral, like a neutral third party that is putting together research about it, and it is definitely needed. Like if you haven't yet, go to the Stanford Basic Income Lab website and run through this stuff. There's so much there. So this is something they're also mapping. So they're still working on a lot of this right now. So they're mapping actually the studies that connect the different studies with UBI, and it's coming in the spring. And like it'll be an interactive network visualization like that we've never had before. And here's the thing, like we get Andrew Yang through the primaries. Think about it. We get Andrew Yang through the primaries. Stanford comes out with this interactive network visualization of UBI. Like how strong of a tool is this? Like this website by itself, before even getting into what they're still coming out with, this by itself paired with what Andrew Yang's talking about is huge. Like there's even a list of current North American basic income pilots, like experiments where they're running basic income right now. Alaska Permanent Fund Dividend. Again, this is the one he talks about with oil. What's the oil of the 21st century data? Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians Casino Revenue Fund in North Carolina is running it. Ontario Basic Income Pilot in Canada. Baby's First Year's Income in the Developing Brain Study in New York. Preserving Our Diversity in Santa Monica. Direct Giving Lab in Chicago. Magnolia Mothers Trust in Jackson, Mississippi. Stockton Economic Empowerment Demonstration, Stockton, California. Basic Income Project from Y Combinator. Chicago Resilient Families Initiative in Chicago. Newark UBI pilot in New Jersey. So there are more and more instances of UBI popping up around the country, and this is just North America, right? They even have courses. I didn't even see the courses. I haven't seen this before. So I guess these are courses at Stanford that are relevant to UBI. So I guess if you go to Stanford, you'll be able to take these courses. So this is what the courses go into. It's the philosophy behind the proposal of UBI. Now, among the various objections to UBI, one concern is moral adequacy. Isn't it fundamentally unjust to give cash to all indiscriminately rather than those who need it and deserve it? Over the years, a variety of scholars have defended the policy on moral grounds, arguing that UBI is a tool of equality, liberal freedom, Republican freedom, gender equality, or social equity. Many others have attacked UBI on those very same grounds, making the case that alternative policy proposals like the job guarantee, means testing benefits, conditional benefits, or reparations should be preferred. In this class, students will learn about political theory and ethics through the specific angle of policy proposal, and they will develop an expertise on the philosophy, politics, and economics of UBI. I want to go take this. Like, seriously, how do I get in there? So again, this is a fairly new department at Stanford. It was opened in 2017. They're still building it out. They're building it out for undergraduates, doctorates, graduates. It's pretty awesome. And then research. I mean, you get into the research. Let me see. Mapping the research. I'm trying to see where. There's a lot here. So again, this is the Stanford Basic Income Lab. It's huge. I mean, they have all this. For them to open a department just for basic income, I mean, that's how relevant do you think it's going to be? And they even have news articles. Will artificial intelligence looming debate over basic income heats up? Wow. The National League of Cities, the NLC, and the Stanford Basic Income Lab released the first ever definitive guide for piloting universal basic income in cities. The toolkit, entitled Basic Income in Cities, is meant to serve as a guide to cities considering piloting UBI. So this is the kind of work they're doing. They're saying, hey, this is what universal basic income, this is why we need it. And for the cities that are interested in piloting it, they're actually coming out with guides for how they do it. Like, if you know anybody on a city council, here again, it goes back to anybody in Yang willing to participate in local politics or national politics. You can literally bring this. I mean, think about if you were on a city council and you brought this to them, like, hey, this is what universal basic income is. This is how we could fund it, and this is how we can run pilots in our own cities. Like, and they have, like, look at all this info. This isn't even the full report. This is the full report. Like, there's so much here. It's crazy. I don't know where it went. I think it downloaded it. So again, this is the Stanford Basic Income Lab. They're just getting started. They're coming out with more resources, more studies over time, and it's going to keep growing and growing. And our main thing, we need to get Andrew Yang to the general election. If he can get in the general election, he will do really well. Like, he just needs to get in front of more faces, because the more people that know about these things and understand it, the better it is. That's the only thing with Andrew Yang right now, is that he's just not in front of enough people. Which is, again, that's kind of, I think that's the DNC strategy with the Yang media blackout. Is, hey, he's really, his policies are really sticky, in that once people hear about him, they like him and his policies. So let's just not put him out in front of people. But if you're able to put him out in front of people, the policies make sense. They start sharing it, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows. So right now, it's super important that we have people all hands on deck. New Hampshire is the 11th. New Hampshire primary is in 5 days. We have the New Hampshire debate tomorrow, Friday, February 7th, and it just keeps rolling on from there. So we need to do as much as possible. Any ideas, like, please spread them. Post them on Twitter. Post them everywhere. People shoot me ideas all the time. I try to share them as much as possible. Email, text, call, phone bank. Like, anything you're able to do, please do. Like, if you're able to, let's see, yangcurious.com. So yangcurious.com, you can actually type in the information for your local city. So I'm in Apple Valley, California. So I type in Apple Valley, California. Let me maximize this. So, and then it comes out with a flyer for your city. Under Andrew Yang presidency, $57 million invested every month in Apple Valley, California. It says with the freedom of dividend, $1,000 per month to every citizen over 18, and then outline some of his other policies other than that. So you can literally go to yangcurious.com, type in your city. This is another city out here, Victorville, California, and it gives you a flyer. Under Andrew Yang presidency, $95 million will be invested into Victorville, California every single month. Every single month. And how many people in your local community, like how many local politicians are talking about things like that? Zero, right? This is yangcurious.com. I mean, there's so many resources from the Yang Gang, which is awesome. And like, we need to keep building things. And like, for example, that caucusing app that broke in Iowa. Bernie's campaign has their own, that they kept track of their own records. Why? Like, we need to create our own version of that. Like Act Blue, the donating account, we need our own version of Act Blue, so that Andrew Yang and then our other UBI candidates, because we have a lot of candidates running for office, we need these different things to help just any way possible. Because Act Blue, they literally, I donate to Andrew Yang's campaign, put in my contact info in there, and then the next day I start getting emails from all the other candidates. Like, they literally sell the information. It's crazy. So we need resources on every level with that. Yangcurious.com is just one of the many things. yangprints.com. I think it's Yang Prints. Hopefully I don't type in something that takes me somewhere else. Yangprints.com. Every kind of flyer, business card, anything you would need. Yangprints.com. Posters, business cards, handouts, door hangers, Post-its, stickers, banners, t-shirts, buttons, stationery. You know what I mean? Like, Yang Gang is so resourceful. Like, there's no way any other candidate has stuff like this. It's insane. So that's yangprints.com. The site before that was yangcurious.com. So that's where we are. Excuse me. How's everybody doing? You have a couple people with me? So again, I'll do more videos, especially leading up to the debate tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be able to do something before the debate and definitely after the debate. I'm just talking about kind of the recap, what happened, what I think went well, what I think didn't go well. I have a forum for my own campaign, February 17th, that I'm going to I'll try to live stream if I can. I don't know how the service will be in that area. I'll definitely record it and post it, but I have a forum for Congress candidate forum on the 17th. That'll be really good. I'm excited to get out there in front of people and again talk about all these policies, because I mean, just universal basic income, most people just don't understand the concept of it. So just to be able to get out there and talk to more people about it, it's going to be huge, especially in this area where it's so needed. It's crazy. Let's see what else is going on in the world right now. So anything you guys want to go over? Shout it out. Put it on the chat. And here's the issue with Iowa. Everybody's saying that they did well. There's no definitive thing. They're saying they have to recanvass, they have to recount everything. So there's no reason anybody should be saying. They're literally just saying it so they could raise money, which makes sense. Again, you know what I mean? So Klobuchar is saying she exceeded expectations. Pete Ward, can you go into a little more detail of how does UBI clash with Darwinism? I don't know. I'm not really sure what you mean with that. I'll just keep that comment up until you explain it more. I mean, if you mean, does it get in the way of survival of the fittest? I think we're pretty much past that in modern times, because we're not out here trying to see who can survive the woolly mammoths better. You know what I mean? Like, modern technology is built out so well already that we're past survival of the fittest. It's really okay. You said exactly. Okay. I mean, we're at a time where there's enough resources. Like, we need to get past the scarcity mindset, right? We need to get past the time where everybody, it's really a tactic, right? It's really a tactic to try to get people worried and saying, oh, there's not enough resources to go around. Like, that's BS. We live in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. If the inequality wasn't so bad, then everybody could be thriving. And I think that's what we're going to, right? That we don't, well, yeah, of course. And here's the thing. Yes, Trumpers would not agree, because largely they live within the scarcity mentality. So what I mean by that is, like, I grew up kind of in a family and a community that had the similar mindset, right? It was, hey, there's not enough to go around. The world's a bad place. It's full of bad people, and you need to watch out for yourself. Like you can't trust each other. So the different, and again, it goes back to the question: does UBI clash with Darwinism? We're past the time of survival of the fittest, right? Um, we need to be able to support people in ways that haven't been able to in the past, because again, we're creating so much value, and we're creating so much infrastructure and resources that, you know, we're providing a floor, right? So we're not giving everyone everything they need every month, right? $1,000 a month, you can't survive on $1,000 a month. What we're doing is saying, hey, we're going to make sure that you have a foundation to build on, whether you have a job, whether you don't, whether you're trying to start a business, whatever you're trying to do, so that if automation takes away your job, or if something comes up, then you have a foundation, right? Um, if you've ever read like Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's a quote he has in there, is his view, and I'm not saying this view is the 100% true. It's just a different mentality. It's not that money is the root of all evil. Like that's the saying a lot of people say, right? Is money is the root of all evil. He says the lack of money is the root of all evil. What he means by that is that if people had their basic needs met, a lot of the bad things that are happening would not happen, because a lot of them happen because people get desperate and they get in these different situations. So this would, if you look at it from a Darwinism perspective, this would rapidly boost the evolution of our species. Like if people aren't focused on just basic needs, if we're actually focused on progress, like if you don't have to worry about every month if you're going to have the food to eat, if enough food to eat, if you're not going to worry about paying bills, like how much more creative can it be? How much more can you focus on building and growing and things like that? If we want to further um, our species faster, like if we want to grow faster, better, we need UBI from a Darwinistic perspective, right? Hopefully that. And honestly, entrepreneurship, yes. Yank suggests entrepreneurship is a positive. It definitely is. I mean, if you work a job nowadays, it's something where they'll pay you as little as possible with as little benefits as possible and not give you the benefit of the doubt. Whereas if you have UBI, you have a foundation where you can build your own business and manage your own time and be in control of your own destiny a lot better. Why wouldn't that be a positive, right? Do you think it's positive? I mean, do you guys think that entrepreneurship would be a positive, or would you prefer working for someone for the rest of your life? Because this is my thing. I mean, it's not at the time anymore where you work for a job for the same company for 40 or 50 years and you have this amazing retirement, right? And caregiver, I don't know. I mean, if you're doing that for work, I think UBI definitely helps. Like if you have a job where it's your passion and you love doing it, UBI will help that, right? If you want to be a caregiver and you have a passion for it, UBI will help that, because you're going to make more income every month and be able to do that, you know, better, right? If you want to start your own business, do that. That's also good, right? So we have both sides. Maybe you go from being a caregiver to owning your own company where you have multiple caregivers and you can do it when you want. But then when you want to take a break, you still have your employees going out and taking care of your patients, right? Not for income though. But if you're a caregiver and you're getting an extra $1,000 a month, wouldn't that help your income? That's my question. Like, sorry, it's kind of hard. Just, I know you're trying to communicate just through the chat. It would, yeah. And that's for most jobs, right? Like if you have something you love doing, awesome. Keep doing that. Basic income will only help you. The difference is that you're not a shit typist. You're good. The difference is, okay, the left says give the government more money because the government knows best and they can do whatever. The right says give corporations more money because corporations know best. Andrew Yang is saying give the people more money. I'm going to give you more money because I trust you, that you know what to do with it. You have the freedom to do with it what you want. And that's the big difference here is trusting the individual. Over time, there's been too much emphasis on either government or corporations. I mean, in 2008, they gave banks, $4 trillion for the bailout, which could have funded UBI for 2 years. So here's the thing. I mean, an UBI will grow the economy just as much as you put into it, right? So it's something we need, and we're just barely getting into the part where it's starting to be realized that we need it a lot more. Again, for Stanford to make a universal basic income lab, like it's huge, it's crazy, and for people that aren't suited for unemployment or entrepreneurship, I mean, what's the alternative right now? Right, the alternative right now is okay. You don't get any floor to work on. With UBI, at least you have people in your family that will have that income, that you could work together and support each other. Without it, you know what I mean? It's you're just leaving people to fend for themselves, and it's not going very well. Coming from an area in the country where a lot of the effects of automation are hitting us a lot harder, like it doesn't look good. We have retail stores closing every day, not every day, every month. We have empty stores just sitting open, negative infrastructure everywhere, crime rates through the roof, cost of living through the roof. We need something like UBI, especially in this area in the high desert. Like what I'm talking about is like Victorville, California, Apple Valley, California, Sperry, California. Mostly around LA, really. It's just there's so many people with so few jobs that it's just an issue. And if you have UBI, I mean, Victorville, California alone would bring in $95 million a month through UBI. Like, not only are those people, people that can start jobs with the money they're bringing off of UBI. I mean, think about how much more business is going to be in your local communities to support those businesses, right? So it's something that, I mean, we definitely need for sure. I mean, futuristically, what is the next logical step after UBI? That's a good question. I mean, UBI is just one piece that's going to be put in place, right? And UBI will adjust with inflation, so it'll adjust every year. So it won't just be $1,000 a month; it'll adjust from there. So, and it's something where when we implement it and people see that it works, we can adjust it, right? If automation gets to the point where it's basically doing everything for us, you can increase it, right? Because people will see that when paired with a VAT, when paired with consumption, it is funding UBI, that is sustainable. So if we have to increase UBI in the future, you also increase the VAT a little bit. I mean, in Europe, they run on VATs of about 20%. So what Andrew Yang is proposing is a VAT of 10%. And he's saying it'll be funded through a VAT of 10%. So even if we had to increase it over time, to get up to those levels that Europe is using, it would still be funded through the VAT, and it'll still be sustainable because it's just a circle, right? You generate money through the VAT that goes into UBI. People spend the money from UBI on goods and other consumption that goes back into VAT, and it's just a circle, right? So if we got to the point futuristically that we needed to increase UBI, there's a way to do that, which is good. Because again, technology, we don't really know where technology is going. I mean, if you've ever looked at Neuralink, like that's one of Elon Musk's companies where they're actually integrating computers and microchips into people's brains. so that you could literally search you could pull stuff from the internet through thought. Like, there's so many things that we can't even comprehend right now that are going to happen. So UBI is necessary right now. And I think the more time goes on futuristically, the more it'll be needed for sure, because it'll get to the point. And Ward's saying everybody loves their jobs. I mean, I don't. Here's the thing. UBI, you're free to do whatever you want, right? The reason, like what the Stanford Basic Income Lab was saying, with that one of the bases of UBI is that they're not tying requirements to it, means that you get the money no matter what you're doing. So you could, if you love your job, cool, keep your job. If you don't love your job, you'll have a foundation to be able to jump to something else. If you want to stay home with your kids and UBI allows you to do that, you'll be able to do that, because a lot of people are just working just to pay childcare. You know what I mean? It's going straight to childcare, and they're not, net making a lot of money off of it. But it's the best they can deal with right now. So again, the reason we have one of the unconditional part, right? UBI unconditional. It involves no work requirement or sanctions. It is accessible to those in and out of work voluntarily or not. So if you have a job you love, you can stay with that job, right? But if you're in a job or situation where you don't love, you have a way to remedy that. Because right now, if you're doing something that you don't love, but you can't get out of it, there's no other options. But with UBI, what we're doing is saying, hey, you have this unconditionally. So whether you have this job or that job or whatever you want to do, it'll be there, because you're a citizen of the richest country in the history of the world and you deserve it, right? I have the skill to help folks, but the charging of money upsets me. I mean, here's the thing. You just have your services be of enough value that people are willing to pay for. And then, you know what I mean? Like, it's, if you're adding value to people, if you're adding value for whatever service you're providing, people will be happy to pay for it, and they'll thank you for it. Right, Ward? Like, if you have skills or something willing to help people out, like, people will pay for it. Again, it's just adding value, adding quality. Like, when we were in Florida, I worked at Disney. Now, Disney, for their parks and all their products, they're fairly expensive, right? Like, if you try to go to Disneyland in California, it's fairly expensive. But the reason they could charge so much is because they provide a super high quality experience. What you're paying for, you're getting the most out of your money through what they're providing. So when you talk about making a business or making a service or whatever, when you're creating something, you make sure you're providing enough that people are willing to pay for. They're happy to pay for it because of what they're getting in return. Does that make sense? So again, if there's a universal basic income, you have that foundation to be able to discover and create better products and things like that. It's only going to help everyone. Like, we're going to have a higher quality of life, not just because of money, but because everything that's involved in our life is going to be a lot higher quality because of that. People and companies will be able to focus more on the quality of their services and products versus just trying to make as much money as possible on one little thing, right? They're not price gouging. They're creating value, because there's going to be more money out there, that if they create more value, there will be more money to be able to be spent on it. Does that make sense? So again, right now, it's not even really an option for a lot of people to participate in different economies that way. And if you're not comfortable and forced to participate in the market economy, find something that, figure out a way to participate in it that works to your advantage. Like, for example, if you, like, for me, naturally, I'm more of an introvert. So getting out and talking to people and being out, amongst other people is pretty draining, right? But so let's say, for example, you're similar to me. We're getting out there and just being in front of a ton of people all at once is not ideal. Like, I've learned to do it, obviously. So maybe you create online courses that you sell through a website. Whatever your skills are, you can make templates and documents and guides. You can make courses that you sell through a website, and that's how you generate that, right? So if you're not wanting to go out there and physically be doing these things, do it virtually. Again, it's technology, right? The reason that UBI is so necessary is because technology is advancing so much that we need something to offset it. So take advantage of the technology that's causing these issues, right? If UBI, basic income, is the thing, then you would have more flexibility to leverage these technologies. Because, technology costs money, and a lot of people can't do the things, I need to get another camera because this one's, it's all right. But I would have a lot more flexibility to get another camera if UBI was the thing, because I know that I have that coming in every month, right? And I know that it's going to add value to the business. Hey, if you're a carpenter, like, phone rings off the hook, like, that is something where, man, if you did your business, if you grew it and were willing to teach more people how to be a carpenter handyman and then have them work for you, that's a huge thing right now, because a lot of, think about how many people go to school for things that aren't relevant in today's market, right? But how many training programs are there for carpenters? Ward Smith, sorry, I didn't click on the new one. Ward said that he's a handyman and his phone rings off the hook. Like, business, having extra business isn't a bad thing. And I think the reason your phone rings off the hook is that there's not very many people with those skills, right? So maybe change your focus to, maybe instead of going out and doing all the work yourself, your focus is, having some kind of trade school, right? That you teach people these things, and in exchange, they work for you for a year, right? Or, something like that. They pay off their schooling by going to work for you, things like that. Or you could just literally have it all virtual, where you go through, get a camera, get a microphone, you go through trainings of, like, how you do certain things. And then as you're training people, you set them up with the training program, right? That's just my idea. Obviously, I'm not a carpenter, so I don't know the business, but you know what I mean? But if with the advancement of technology with UBI, people would have more flexibility to do those things, right? If people want to learn to be a carpenter, with UBI, they would have that foundation where they could pivot, retrain themselves, and then to take on a new trade. Whereas right now, if people are in an unskilled field of work, like me, for example, in sales, it's very difficult to pivot into a new industry, because it's very hard to pivot because there's no foundation. Like, it's almost impossible to stop work, learn a new trade, like take enough time off that you can actually learn something new, and then go back into that. Like, it's almost impossible. And with the paperwork, again, leverage technology. Try to find, like, some kind of, there might be software to help the paperwork. Like, in developing a new product or a new piece of software, like for example, if you're a carpenter and a lot of the pain is with the paperwork, maybe with UBI, use your funds with UBI to develop a software to help make the paperwork easier, make it all digital. And then not only will that help your own business, but then you could sell the software to other people, other carpenters, right? And that'll be a huge way of helping. Or you could get, like, you could start a virtual assistant agency along with the software, or just by itself, virtual assistant agency that specializes in construction and carpenters. And then you could take that agency, have them do all your paperwork, and then go to other agencies and say, hey, I'm a carpenter. I was getting really frustrated with the work. So I created a virtual assistant agency where they handle it all for me. And it helped my business so much that I want to offer this to other businesses, right? And then just charge them for the virtual assistant thing, right? They are willing to pay so they don't have to deal with it themselves. And you're offering a services that's going to make their life so much better that they're more than happy to pay for it, right? And it's, again, we're just thinking of different ideas, right? That's just off the top of my head. But for every problem, like in creating new, see, now I'm making you an entrepreneur. And again, it's just a mindset thing. But where UBI comes back into it is that you have more resources to be able to do these things. Like, obviously, if you're having this pain with paperwork with being a carpenter, there's other carpenters in other parts of construction that are having the same problems. So when creating a new business, one of the big things is find the pain, right? Look at an industry. So this is an industry you obviously know. You find the pain that you're having to deal with daily because other people are dealing with it. You create a solution that relieves that pain, right? And if it relieves that pain, people are going to be willing to pay for it. And then your solution to that problem becomes your business, right? So whether it be creating a software that handles the paperwork or creating a virtual agency to help that they'll physically do the paperwork, like those are both really super like realistic options. Like virtual assistants from the Philippines that's just one example, are really, really good. And since their cost of living over there is so cheap, then it's like, it makes that business model make a lot more sense. So yeah, your business right now is with your hands, but again, if you were to develop things that'll help you in your business that you can also sell to other businesses, it helps everyone, right? So again, if you find a way to relieve that pain with the paperwork, I think that's where you find it. Like, the paperwork's exhausting. Figure out a way like to digitize that. Like, if you made an app or a website that helped carpenters with their paperwork, that'll not only help your business, but then you could sell to your other businesses. That's where you become an entrepreneur, right? So that's just an idea, again, of people, you're doing one thing. And if you get universal basic income, you get an extra $1,000 a month. You can figure out how to hire someone to develop whatever thing you want to develop for your business. And then it just grows everything a lot faster. So back to your original comment about Darwinism, again, universal basic income will free people up, free their time and their resources up to be able to develop new and better things. Then if you look at it from an evolutionary perspective, it's going to increase our evolution of a species even faster. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's solving so many problems, and it's going to help us move into the future even faster, more smoothly. Where on the opposite spectrum of it, like, look at the opposite. If technology is moving so quickly that it's displacing jobs and we don't implement a universal basic income, the increase of technology will make us collapse faster, right? It'll make people be more depressed. It'll increase anxiety. So the reason Andrew Yang is running on universal basic income, the reason Stanford opened a basic income lab, is that it's super necessary. And yes, this is where UBI in the future, again, he's just saying $1,000 a month right now. That's a sweet spot based on the current research and the current studies, right? In the future, the conditions will change and we'll need to adjust it, right? But there are mechanisms to adjust it because we are proposing a universal basic income based on that is funded through a value-added tax. So the funding is already there. So if you need to increase the universal basic income, you increase the VAT, right? Europe's doing a VAT of 20%. We're saying that a VAT of 10% would fund UBI. So realistically, we could go up to 20%. We already know that it functions in countries right now. So realistically, if we needed to double UBI, hypothetically, you double the VAT and it would work hand in hand, right? So in the future, if technology grew so much that it would be able, you would need more of a VAT or more of a UBI, you increase the VAT to be able to fund the UBI. Just goes hand in hand. And that's the thing. Like a UBI by itself without a VAT doesn't really make sense. But you pair it with a value-added tax where these companies can't avoid the taxes, like Amazon not paying any taxes on a $11 billion of profit is BS, right? That's not sustainable. So you implement something where we are creating income from the more these companies make, it makes more sense. Yeah, and it does make sense where you're working with your hands. You love the artistry. And I think a UBI, think about how many more people would pay for better quality work where you can focus more on the artistry versus just the profit margin, right? With universal basic income, because there's more capital in the market where you be able to sell higher quality goods, better things like that, better products, and you'd be able to spend more time and make it more artistic, That's just my thought. But this all ties back to like, where is technology going? Where is the country going? What do we need to be able for it to continue sustainably? And again, universal basic income. This is why Stanford doing this is, it's pretty good. So awesome. Glad you're with me. I'm with you too. Oh, my back. Yeah, so I'm excited. We have the debate tomorrow. We have New Hampshire on the 11th. We have the Nevada debate the 19th. The Nevada caucus, another caucus, is the 22nd, I think. And then we're going to go from there. So I've been streaming for a couple hours. I think I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for guys and gals, everyone else who's hanging out with me. A lot of good conversation, a lot of good resources. I'm going to try to stream more, definitely start to post more videos. So again, thank you again for spending time with me. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe on YouTube. It's at James Ellars. If you search James Ellars on YouTube, I will come up. Excuse me. If you are on Twitter, my Twitter handle is at Ellars. That's usually where I'm the most active. Again, I'm going to try to be on YouTube a lot more. Again, YouTube, jamesellars.com. And again, thank you for spending time with me. I'll try to be on more tomorrow. Again, pay attention to the debates tomorrow. If you're on Twitter, please be on Twitter and be reacting real time. If just tell more people about it, just let more people know that, hey, there's a debate tonight, you should watch, right? Because Andrew Ying's going to be there. The last debate wasn't super exciting because Andrew Yang wasn't there, and his lack of presence there was felt. So him being on the debate stage again tomorrow, it's going to wake a lot of people up. Like, wow, he's still here. I thought he was gone. What happened? So it's going to be super exciting. Again, thank y'all for spending time with me. I will talk to you guys soon. All right. Have a good night.